As I was browsing idea for horror-themed videos, I decided to go on Reddit. Probably not the best idea, but if TikTok bot accounts can do it, why don't I? I hopped onto r/horror to get started, and oh boy, I'm glad I did. I found an unpopular horror thread, and oh, I knew I found a goldmine there. So here's me reacting to Reddit's spiciest horror opinions and adding my 2 cents. Remember, peeps, these are people's own personal opinions. Treat others the way you want to be treated, aka, don't be a dicky dick. Let's start with the person who created this thread. The first comment. To be honest, I don't know how Reddit works, so I think this is the first comment, in a way. Unpopular horror opinions. Insidious deserves more respect. It was original with its story, and I think the scares were very well executed, especially for a film rated 12. But I feel like everyone looks down on it compared to The Conjuring. I guess this is more of a horror fan, but I don't like gore. I think it's a cheap way of getting a strong reaction out of someone. Yes, gore can be horrifying, but I get the same horror out of watching Chicago Med. The first one, I cannot say. I really have not seen Insidious. I've seen like clips, but I don't think I've fully, honest to God, watched the movie from movie. So I can't get a good answer. I'll get back to everyone once I fully watch it. For the second opinion, I agree. It's a cheap way of getting the audience scared, but there are moments where it can be used in a fantastic way. It's a double-edged sword that's hard to balance with your pointer finger. Not all of the gore is bad, but some just don't balance it right at all. I feel like the Resident Evil series handles gore well. This is probably weird, but whatever. There's a bit of it, but it's not the main focus of the story. It definitely adds to the brutality and helps with stakes. And oh god, can it also add to the character design. Like, the creatures could be scary without the brains and trillion eyes. It can. But does it add to the horror to make it scarier? Hell to the yes. Jason Voorhees and Michael Myers are pretty much the exact same villains. Freddy Krueger and Pinhead are far more unique and interesting. Oh, such a raw take, and honestly, I can't help but agree. To an extent, at least. Man with a mask takes teens and murders them on a specific day of the year? Yeah, that sounds about right. And this is coming from someone who enjoys Friday the 13th and Halloween. No wonder people in the horror community have made a lot of fan art of them together. In a lot of ways. More than I would like to admit it. Oh god. I do like gore. I also like jump scares. Not every horror movie has to be super artsy. Yeah. But not every horror movie has to be filled with jump scares and gore. I feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel like there's been more movies as of late that just focus on the jump scares and how fucked up it can be. And plus, I like my stories with a little bit of actual story instead of jump scare. Horror doesn't have to scare you to be good. I went through a period thinking horror sucked because I went through the horror movies without being scared. I know some people bash horror, especially early horror, for not being scary due to the lack of jump scares. And Deleted replied with, movies are rarely scary to me, but still enjoyable. The ones that do scare me are the ones I have to save for when I'm in a good frame of mind for it. Yeah, no, I agree with this. I'm also guilty of thinking, oh, this horror thing sucked because it doesn't scare me. I heavily thought this way until I was introduced to Junji Ito. Not a lot of his work scares me, but they managed to make someone look over their shoulder. Everyone's tastes are different. Plus, I agree with the reply. If it's enjoyable, that's all that should matter, eh? Maybe more of a hot take than an unpopular opinion, but Scary Movie 1 is the best. And the second best Scream movie. Scream 1 is the best. This one I can't agree with, because I have not seen Scary Movie 1. I know. How can a horror person like you not see Scary Movie? I promise I will try to see it in the near future. I promise you, okay? I'm sorry. I failed you all. Found footage film is the best subgenre. Bet I get flamed for saying something like this in the wrong place. This one isn't really a hot take for me. I'm kind of biased though. The idea of found footage is more grounded in reality than others might think. And honestly, just makes it scarier to me. Sure, there could be elements in the story where it's just spooky, supernatural. Ooh. But it's just more connected. You're more likely to find random files or even just SD cards out in the wild with shit videos. And plus, it also shows the person that created said footage is more human. Definitely more human than all those professional camera crews. Okay, jokes aside, all respects to camera crews though. They can always make some spooky angles and stories. But there's also just something creepy about people recording their last moments and you're watching it. That shit will never cease to scare me. That is just, ugh. I hate it when people try to complain about characters making bad choices, as if you know what you're going to do when a killer is chasing you. That being said, I have one exception, and I hate the movie Creep because the main guy is so freaking dumb that he basically let himself be killed. You know what? Finally, someone said it. This is so true. I've seen so many people complain about it many times, but, how are you know what you're gonna do? Great example is that I didn't know how I would react to a home invasion. I thought I'd break down and freak out without thinking. But turns out, I'm the most rational thinker when it comes to those things. Yet I still panic when I'm making a phone call to my doctor. I hate when the ghost/monster in a movie turns out to not be real and it's all just a personification of some mental trauma. I could see where this person's coming from, but I can't help but disagree. I think there's been more movies of, oh, this creature is real. Oh, wait, it might be mental health, but oh no, this creature's real. Then there actually has been a monster that actually is mental trauma. I don't really like those movies, especially when they try to quote-unquote trick you into thinking the monster isn't real, but then, oh, shocker, no, it's real. And they try to act like they're so superior for managing to trick the audience. You might know what movie I'm talking about later. I feel like a great example of this trope done well is the original Jacob's Ladder. No spoilers here, but that movie is a trip watching it, and I highly suggest it if you want to see this trope done justice. Plus, it just leaves you so jaw-struck at the end. Cannot recommend it enough. Nope, here's another gore one. I don't know, gore can be an effective tension builder. Processor Uncut, it was one of the few horror-adjacent films that ever made me uncomfortable, right next to Cannibal Holocaust, which is a travesty. For an actual unpopular opinion, home invasion horror is far more terrifying than anything supernatural. I've never been truly anxious in checking all my locks and windows as a result of a movie like The Conjuring, but the strangers? Fucking hell, man. I totally agree in the home invasion horror. They gave me lasting unease. However, this opinion is surprisingly common among non-horror fans I've talked to. I've met several people who don't like monster movies but refuse to watch home invasion movies just because they cannot bear it. Gore can be an effective tension builder. I will agree with that. Sadly, modern horror seems to mix up gore with good story writing. I do agree with that hot take though. The second hot take is something I also agree with. I love supernatural horror stories, but let's be real. Ghosts aren't gonna do most of the stuff you see in the movies. This is coming from an avid believer in the paranormal. The worst thing I've had happen to me was my hair being pulled. I'm not even including the people who don't believe in ghosts in this narrative. The idea that anyone, in any moment, can just break into your home is terrifying and realistic. Legit, even if you are in the safest neighborhood/city, it can happen. Which is exactly why you need to lock your doors and possibly have outdoor cameras. It could just happen. And it's fucking horrifying. Please don't downvote me, sad face. But the original Halloween isn't that entertaining to watch it anymore. I love Michael though, and I appreciate it for what it was in the time. I just personally didn't enjoy it. Oh gosh. I might get hacked for this, but I can't help but agree. The first half of the movie was honestly dragging, and I couldn't help but laugh at that one scene where Myers was just staring up at Laurie from the ground. Like, damn, how the hell did they make that so funny? Probably because of meme culture, but it doesn't matter. I also enjoyed the other half due to the campiness of, oh no, is he dead? Nope, but is he dead now? You never know. I understand it was a product of its time, and it isn't the best movie, but I also have a soft spot for it in my heart. It isn't the best, but oh gosh. At least I can get some enjoyment out of it. Torture porn. Oh god. Torture porn It's a valid and occasionally enjoyable type of movie. Oh boy. This is probably one of the hardest hot takes I've heard. This is definitely a hot take. I'm gonna try my best to respond. Just torture porn? That's a red flag, and you will be uninvited to my horror-themed birthday party. And I guess put on the list for that, but that doesn't matter. If the torture is to the most deplorable people, yes please. I want to see those CEOs suffer the way they treat us every frickin' day. Jokes aside, don't hate to this person. That's their opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, even if it makes me a little sus about them. Now, I feel like it's only fair if I toss my hat into the ring. I'm gonna give you some of my own hot takes. Some horror shouldn't be based on reality. Hear me out on this. Some horror stories can be based on reality, but there has to be consent from the victims. I feel like snatching so much trauma and making it to the horror is a little weird. Sensationalizing so much traumatic event just feels wrong, especially when consent was not given. Ghostface is the best killer. Even with having no powers, he's scarier than any other horror villain. Period. Smile's a terrible movie. The only good part of that movie was the monster design. And that wasn't even shown much in the movie. If you can't tell, this was the movie I was hinting at earlier. Ugh. Do you agree with these, or do you not? Or do you want to hear me rant about my own hot takes? Drop a comment below and let's start a discussion. If you want more horror, subscribe to my channel. I'm experimenting with more different content than I normally am, because usually I post content about my clips from Twitch and all that. But, you know, if you want to join me on this journey, please, by all means. Love y'all and see you next time.